Okay, so this is the kettlebell variation of workout number 1. Okay, so first things first is the warm-up. You can do 2 minutes cardio. If you've got an exercise bike or anything at home, you can use that. You can go for a run up and down the block, or you can just run on the spot. 2 minutes just to raise your heart rate. And then we're going to do shoulder circles, 10 in each direction, and you're going to get bigger and bigger as you go. You can do 10 that way, and then start big and get smaller. 10 the opposite way. And then you're going to do 10 lunges. We'll just go 5 on each leg. 1, 2. So 5 on each side like that. And then you're going to do 10 scap push-ups. So scap is your scapula or your shoulder blades. So you hold a high push-up position, and instead of dropping down to the floor by bending your elbows, you just lower yourself down as far as your shoulders will, and then round them on the way up. Lower down, round them. So your elbows don't bend, but your shoulder retracts and protracts like that. And your first superset is going to be kettlebell deadlift and pullover. And you can do both of these with dumbbells as well. The kettlebell wants to be on the heavier side for the deadlift. The movement is, hold your kettlebell here. If you're doing it with dumbbells, you can have one in each hand, or you can hold one dumbbell by the head in between your legs. Feet just a little bit wider than hip width apart. Bum goes back, and you hinge over until you feel it in your hamstrings, and then you bend your knees, stand up, and push up with your glutes. So bum back, and I'm just hinging over at the waist. My back stays at the same angle. When I get to the point where I can't go any further, I bend my knees, then I drive up from the floor until I get my hands past my knees, and at that point I stand up by firing my glute muscles. And you're going to do 10 reps like that, and then you're going to get a kettlebell on the lighter side for the pullovers. If you don't have a bench, this is just a 20 quid IKEA bench, but if you don't have one, you can just lay on the floor and do the same thing. You're going to hold the kettlebell by the handles like this, lay back, excuse the creaks, I need to tighten these screws up. Hold the kettlebell over your head like this and go back. If you're on the floor, obviously you just go to touching the floor and then pull it over. And just take the stretch as far as it's comfortable. Definitely don't go into any painful range of motion. And you can do 10 reps like that as a superset. Okay, and the next superset is a front rack lunge and a shoulder press. Ignore the cats, I've given up trying to keep them out of the videos. So, you can do this as a single movement, or you can do it as a superset, a traditional superset. So you can do all 10 lunges. You can use 1 or 2 kettlebells. If you use 1, then swap arms after 5 reps. And if you use 2, then obviously you're going to have them like this. You're going to stand nice and upright. You're going to take a big step forward, and you're going to try and get as much of your weight as possible on that front leg. Drop that knee to the floor and stand back up, and that's 1 lunge. So I would do 5 on that leg, switch arms, 5 on that leg. Now, the alternative to that is that you combine both movements. So it's a little bit more advanced. So I would take a lunge, hold my knee just off the floor, press, and then come back. And then it's not going to be a superset because you've combined both movements into one. If you're doing a traditional superset, where you're just doing the movements one after the other, then you're going to do 10 lunges and 10 shoulder press. So it's 10 on each arm, Obviously you can do exactly this with dumbbells as well. Okay, and the next superset is towel curls and woodchoppers. So I've put towel curls for if you only have one kettlebell. So if you've got one kettlebell, you're going to put a towel through the handle. You're going to pick up each end of the towel and you're going to do bicep curls like that. Ten reps. So the other option is you can hold the kettlebell by the handles like that and do your bicep curls. So it's all going to depend on the weight of kettlebell that you've got as to which one's the appropriate one. If you've got more kettlebells, or obviously if you've got dumbbells, then you can do one in each arm. They're a bit too heavy actually. So there's a few different options there of how you can do your bicep curls. The towel ones are really good because they add a little bit of instability as well. And then the next superset is woodchoppers. So we're going to do them on our knees and definitely start off with a lighter weight. And again, you can do exactly the same thing with a dumbbell. You're just going to hold both heads of the dumbbell and do the same movement. So I'm going to hold the kettlebell like this. I'm going to start off on the floor down here. And I'm going to move to the opposite side in a high position. Back down to a low position. High. I'm going to do 10 on each side as a superset with the bicep curls. And then you're going to move on to your finisher. So this is designed to be done one after another in 3 rounds with as little rest as possible. If you need rest, then have a rest, it's fine. But the aim is hopefully by week 3, if you were resting in week 1, hopefully by the time you do it in week 3, you'll have built up a little bit more fitness and maybe you can get through it without a rest. And the movements are kettlebell swings, 15, kettlebell thrusters, 10, and kettlebell plank pull-throughs, 10 in each direction. So I'm going to show you exactly what those movements are. You can do one kettlebell all the way through for all movements, in which case pick the weight that you can do for the pull-throughs. That's probably the most challenging one, or maybe the thrusters. If you want to go heavier for the swings and lighter for the thrusters, then you can. So, kettlebell swings. So it's exactly the same movement as we did with the deadlift, in terms of bum goes back and you hinge forward. So the curve of my back doesn't change as I move, but it's much more dynamic. So I get to there and I throw my hips forward. But it's hinging. What I don't want you to do is be bending your back to move the kettlebell. And then we're doing thrusters. So you can hold the kettlebell whichever way you want. And again, you can do all of these movements with dumbbells too. I like to hold the kettlebell either in a goblet like this or by the handles like this. Hold it into my chest. I'm going to squat down as far as I can, up to there. Bring the kettlebell down, squat, thrust, and then turn it into a fluid movement. So 10 like that. And then I'm going to go into a high plank position with the kettlebell off to one side, reach through with the opposite hand, put it over there, and you're going to do that for 10 in each direction, so 20 in total.